Hello, Dawn and Wendy here once again with the Light Weavings podcast. This is where we ask the question, what has dimmed your light? And are you ready to do something about that? This is where we may talk about situations or conversations that may be uncomfortable for some, but not for those of us that are here because we can relate to the topic. So, are you ready to begin, Wendy?
I am so ready, Dawn. Let's do this.
Let's do this. The holidays, we're in the midst of it. Christmas was a few days ago. Now we're moving on to the new year. All kinds of shifting is happening, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it's going to be such an exciting year. 2023 is going to bring so much change for so many people. And it's hard to believe that we're coming into this new phase, just a few more days until New Year's. And we have some really fun things to talk about that will be really powerful to take into the new year.
Yes, and we all welcome that, don't we? A shift, up level, a new beginning. It always feels good to have a fresh start, right? And it feels like, boom, January 1st is a reason to have a fresh start. I
Yes,
welcome it.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's been struggles, it feels like, at the end of 22. A lot of people that I encounter are talking about it. There's a lot of buzz on it online. Um, Maybe shifts in relationships, health issues. Maybe some people have left your life completely, either passed on or just moved on. Um, that's the way the world works. That is part of our cycle, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I've been hearing the same thing. A lot of people are choosing to leave Earth right now. And yeah, you're right. A lot of relationship shakes-ups, and it can feel really uncomfortable, and it can appear to be really tragic. But within that, we get to start standing in our power even more.
I love the way that sounds. It sounds like a decision.
Yes. It is a decision. For starters, it's a decision on how we're going to handle the situation, you
Mm.
know, all of the situations, whether it be the relationship, whether it be losing a loved one, it could be the loss of a friendship. I'm actually going through that right now, a loss of a longtime friendship, somebody that we were like best buddies, and for her own reasoning decided that the relationship no longer worked for her. And so it's been an opportunity for me to really stand in my power through this and not let this bring me down.
Yeah, it's like we have a choice, and they seem pretty extreme, but we really do have the choice whether to be look at ourselves as the victim of the
Right,
situation
right.
or to find ourselves and our true power and then stand firm to who we know we are and not I used to have the tendency, and I still deal with this with myself, is to look for what is wrong with me,
Mm,
make this situation happen. And what I've found through experience over the years is that later I've realized or been told that it actually had nothing to do with me. And
right.
so to put myself in that victim mode, all it did was hurt me and maybe others around me by doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of relationships, there's something that was really powerful that I learned from Lisa Nichols. She's this larger than life, amazing woman. I don't know if you know who she is. I first learned about her watching the movie The Secret, but that women can speak and just move you like nobody else can. And something I learned about relationships that I found really empowering was there are three types of relationships. And that is a lifetime. So somebody comes into your life for, can start off when you're young. You hear about these people, oh, we met when we were in junior high, we met in kindergarten, we've been best friends, or we've been married, whatever. And those are really rare. And the other kind is life-giving. They're the kinds of relationships that come in and they put in like this surge of energy into your life, and then they're over. And then the other one is purposeful relationships. And that's where we spend about 80% of our time is in purposeful relationships where there is a reason why you come together with somebody. And when that purpose is complete, then it's like your contract is over. And this is something that was really helpful for me with this situation of losing this friend that I thought was gonna, we were gonna be friends until one of us died, and then I got to look at it that, okay, there was a big purpose for this. And it was really empowering, and as a personal empowerment leader, it's really important to me to figure out how to practice what I preach, being in that empowered state. And it's also important to me to let people know that you're so much more powerful than what you think you are or what you believe you are. Like you just shared, you thought so many times when something didn't work out right or a relationship ended, it was all about you. And then you find out it's really not. And we're basically, this is my belief anyway, is we're like programmed from childhood to give away our power and to believe that when things go wrong, it's our fault. And
Wow.
when we can understand that we're all adults now and we don't have to give away our power to anybody. We don't have to give it away to our mothers anymore. We don't have to give it away to our fathers. We don't have to give it away to our teachers. We don't have to give it away to our religious instructors. We don't even have to give our power away to our spouses or our partners, which so many of us are taught to do,
Yes.
especially as women. We're supposed to be more subservient, we're supposed to make our partner happy. And if there's any energy left over, then maybe a little dose for you.
Yes. How wrong is that?
Yeah.
Really, when you look at it, it's like so flawed. It doesn't make sense. And
Yeah.
even those who believe that way of living, because it is an old-fashioned sort of, maybe it worked for a period of time for the survival of people, but we have upgraded our system in this world now, and to be subservient to, for example, a woman to a husband is so flawed, because we know how important self-care is, and to feel empowered and live our brightest, most productive life that we are given on this earth. If we don't do that, we cannot give to others fully. If we feel like we are less than or subservient or that we're not as important, we cannot give what we are supposed to give in order for it to be the most powerful in this world. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Makes perfect sense to me. Yeah. I'm right there with you, sister. Totally on board with what you just said. We are absolutely upgrading ourselves. We are absolutely in a new time, in a new era. And I think back to our even our mothers, our aunts, our uncles who are leave out. Well, there are some uncles, there are some men who give away their power. We'll focus on the women here, first of all. You're absolutely right. They did what they did for survival. It's just like we did what we did when we were children for survival. We gave our power away when we were children because we didn't want to, for so many of us, we didn't want to be spanked. We didn't want to be, beaten. We didn't want to have, meals taken away or whatever the punishment was. We didn't want to disappoint our parents. Oh, that is something. That's something I think is really important to bring up. We're taught, so many of us, not to disappoint somebody else. And so when we realize it's okay if we disappoint someone else, it's okay if we disappoint our parents, it's okay if we disappoint our children, it's so much more empowering, because if somebody is disappointed, then that's on them. And we get to say, okay, sorry, it didn't work out, whatever the case may be. But it's so empowering. And that was something that was a hard lesson for me to learn. And I feel that the reason this is coming up is because, just to share, my entire childhood, far back as I can remember, I took it upon myself. I decided when I was a little girl that I was not to disappoint my dad. You know, my dad was not a big disciplinarian as far as like I had my stepmother who was very abusive, and my dad, he was just more of if it was really necessary. My dad used to tell me, "Oh, it hurts me more than it hurts you when I spank you." I'm like, whatever. It depends what end of the stick you're on, right?
Yeah.
But there was also like this expectation of don't disappoint dad. And so I lived so much of my life in fear of disappointing my father. And what I realized was happening is I was disappointing myself.
Disappointing yourself instead of disappointing your father. It was
Exactly.
either or.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Because to please my dad meant I wasn't standing in my power and doing what I wanted to do or what I thought was right for me. I would adjust my life to please my dad.
Boy,
And
does that resonate with me. That is very insightful. I've gleaned some new insight from that. That was amazing. To disappoint a parent really affected me and still does to this day. Let's just be honest. To disappoint anybody in authority um, breaks me. And I feel like that is a survival mechanism that came from caveman days because to be disappointed means that we're shunned. To disappoint somebody means to be shunned, really, that, oh, cast aside. And back in those days, the beginning of Earth or however, wherever, whenever it was, um, to be cast out of the tribe meant that you would die, literally, because you didn't have food or shelter and the elements and the animals were out there without the group, the safety of a group. So really, literally to be cast aside because you disappointed is instant fear, especially as a child, because you have so little options to survive on your own.
well, absolutely. When you disappoint a parent, your parent is not afraid to oftentimes to shame you. How dare you disappoint me? And they don't even have to say anything. It's just a look on their face.
Yeah.
And then you take on this shame. And I was listening to a webinar a couple of years ago, and it was all about, women's empowerment. And the speaker, I don't remember her name, but she was talking about how much shame women are carrying around and don't even know it.
No, because we've been carrying it around since we were old enough to understand that we were a girl and not a boy.
Oh, yeah. Boy, that's a topic we can talk about.
Yes, because
Oh,
certain
yes.
expectations for a
Yes.
female, no matter how old,
Oh,
you know, a certain way you sit, a certain way you walk, what you say, what you don't say, what's allowed, what's not allowed as a woman are different as a girl are different than for a boy.
yep.
Still to this day.
Yes.
Just be real.
Yep.
Um, and so, well, fast forward to, even with sex, let's just talk about the uncomfortable subject.
Absolutely.
Even with sex, that is a shameful thing for a woman to talk about or to want.
Hmm.
Um, and um, and if a woman makes money, I think we try not to talk about it as much as men do on how successful we are money wise, because to some degree it still relates to sex and that we are promiscuous women. I mean, I know that's sounds like it's reaching, but it is related. It is connected. Somehow money, power, and sex are connected when it comes to a woman. I
Yeah.
still believe that's our power.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you said that because I was pondering money and power one day. And I sat down and I wrote out, I was kind of like conversing with the universe because I wanted a little bit of clarity. And I had this belief, this hardwired belief that money equaled power. And the message that I got was money equals power equals ego.
Mm-hmm.
Love equals power equals your God self.
But
So,
that feel different. It feels
yeah,
different. And
yes,
that's the truth.
yes, because yeah, the money, the whole male thing, the money, what you were just talking about, that's all ego driven.
Mm,
And when I got this message about the real power in us is that love, it was like just like all this pressure just disappeared.
mm.
Like, wow. So to really be powerful, all you really need to do is to be love. And where does love start? Love starts within ourselves.
Yes.
The love and the respect for ourselves. That
We're
is
also
real
taught,
power.
we're also taught as women that that is not where love comes from or where love should go, not to ourselves. We're the last person to receive. We are to
Mhm.
give to our husband, but when we become mothers, our children come first. We do believe that. I think most mothers do really
Mhm.
truly believe that. And of course, our children do get our love. Of course, they are a part of us, though.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's important that, of course, we need to give to our children, especially when they're young and they're vulnerable, and they count on us 100%.
Yes.
But here's the deal, and it took me getting sick to get this through my thick head. You still have to give to yourself first. I gave and 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 gave of myself until I hit stage 3 adrenal fatigue.
Mm.
And do you know what happens when you hit stage 3 adrenal fatigue?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, I'll tell you really quick. Okay, we have like 4 different stages of adrenal fatigue, adrenal usage, exhaustion, whatever you want to call it. We have the normal fight or flight. So, for example, if like you're driving and a deer jumps out in front of you, I say that because that's where I live. That's what happens. You got that,
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, the danger is over. You shake it off and you move on. Then you get the next level up where you're stressed all the time, and it's usually because you're giving and trying to please everybody, trying to please your family, trying to please your boss, please the neighbor, please your religious leader, whomever. And you can only be on this overdrive of giving, 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 giving for so many decades. And then pretty soon your adrenals, which are these little, as part of your endocrine system, these little glands that are on top of your kidneys that produce all of these and very important hormones for your body, they give out. And this tends to happen for people around 30 to 50 years old, depends on how much stress you put yourself under. And when you hit that next stage, stage 3, you stop. You don't move. What happened to me is I couldn't get out of bed for like 3 days. It was all I could do to crawl to the bathroom. And I learned so much about this from one of my mentors. He's a doctor who became an expert in this field because he hit stage 3 adrenal fatigue, Dr. Randall Roberts. And he shares a story of he came into his house, I believe it was this kitchen, and he dropped to the floor and he could not move. It takes a minimum of 3 to 4 days to reset your adrenals. Of that's you doing absolutely nothing. And stage 4, you can die. You can have a heart attack and die.
How frightening, and how often does that happen? And people are unaware of what's happening to their body.
Oh, all the time. All the
Mhm.
time. Yeah, that's why I used to teach this publicly in groups, and I have actually a free access to this information on my website. It's your stress relief action plan because this is so serious. And when I have given this presentation, it's always a room full of women. There might be 1 or 2 men, but it's the women because they're always giving, 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 giving. And when you're giving like that, you're not standing in your power. You're not having the boundaries that you need to have. We have the right to have boundaries. And we are more powerful when we are rested. We're more powerful when we have respect for ourselves. We're more powerful when we stand in our power and when we say no. And if somebody crosses the line, then we get to make a decision on what is the healthiest way for us to move forward. Is that to leave a relationship, to break off a friendship? Is that to whatever that looks like for somebody, but you got to have those boundaries and really know that it's okay to be powerful as a woman. They say that one of the things that women especially, people in general, but women especially, what we're most afraid of is our own power.
I know that I am. That is really true. But I've worked on this so I recognize it. It took me a long time to get to that point where what I know you just said is true, that there is a fear of what we can do. And why is that? Is it because of the old, traditional ways of where a woman belongs in the tribe, in the family? Is that part of it? I think it is part of it. It definitely is. But we are coming to a point in time in our society, in our world, in our consciousness, where we understand that it is more than okay for a woman to stand in her power, which is really the topic that we've landed on today, is standing in your power. Because we can be a loving vessel, which we are naturally, a nurturing vessel, and be powerful and lead at the same time. And I really believe what you were saying, Wendy, is so true, that knowing what those boundaries look like in our life. Now, this is a process, discovering boundaries.
Yes, it is.
Because the pendulum can swing too far with that. And that is destructive as well, where we can maybe destroy relationships if we're a little too harsh and say, this is my boundary right here. Nobody can get in but me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, there's got to be space in here. And that's what this podcast and the books that we've written and put out there for you, which we'll be talking about in a few minutes, are about that, about weaving in space so that the light can come in, because it can be too blocked off and too dark for us, right? So it is a process. And working with coaches has really helped me realize where my boundaries are healthiest in my life and what they look like and what areas to set boundaries up that maybe I don't have in, or maybe to widen them a bit in areas that are too tight for me, because it's trial and error. We're all learning as we go here. I'm certainly not an expert, and I don't know a lot of people that truly are experts, but I know that there's a lot of people in my life that are further along on the journey than I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And you're right. It's definitely a trial and error about learning about boundaries. And honestly, I didn't know what a boundary was until I was in my mid 50s. Like, what? And I read a book about it. Like, oh, no wonder I'm so unhappy. No wonder I'm so tired. No wonder I'm so irritated, because people are invading my space and I didn't set the boundaries for that. So yeah, we're all in the learning mode. It's my belief that we are all going to continue learning until the day we die, because there's always something more to discover.
Oh yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. Once again, I always say this, and it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of true. If somebody's perfect, I would be way too intimidated to hang out with them.
But what is perfection? There is no such thing as perfection, is there?
There just isn't. No. But yeah, I love this topic of standing in your power. And what does that look like for you? Now, these feel like buzzwords sort of in the coaching industry. Even boundaries is sort of a buzzword, like it's, may get overused at times, but it's necessary to understand that is such a thing in your life, especially if you have a very empathetic personality, which is called empath. There's a lot of us that have that quality, where we can feel energy easily. You may not even recognize this in yourself now, but maybe this is the beginning for you, just hearing this podcast, that you take on the energy in the room.
Yes.
Whatever that looks like, who's ever in the room, take it on internally, and you'll let it affect every part of your being. And this is where the beginning of a boundary may begin for you if you have that quality about yourself. You realize that it's scary to walk into a crowd sometimes because you don't know what energy is in there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how it affects you. I mean, that's an extreme version of it, but that is a sign of an empath. There's all kinds of books written about that. And thought leaders have talked about that, about what to do if you're an empath to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
women are empaths because we are very empathetic beings.
Yes. Yeah. I'll just share with you really fast something that I learned about being an empath, which I didn't know that I was for a very long time. And then once I, learned what it was, because like you said, it was a buzzword. And so people started talking about it, bringing awareness to it. What I found for myself is that when you go in and heal your childhood trauma, it's easier to protect yourself from other people's energy because
Mm.
you're not being triggered. And you're not being triggered from your past, but you're also, that part of you of wanting to fix somebody isn't being triggered, or wanting to necessarily go in and save somebody. Because so many of us that are empaths, that's our instinct, is we want to fix somebody, we want to save somebody.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so healing uh, that that need, because there's so many underlying subconscious elements behind wanting to save somebody and wanting to heal somebody, which is some big lessons that I've learned over the years that maybe we can talk about another time. But yeah, so that's just one thing that I learned that was really helpful.
Beautiful. That's some of the work that you do. I know you've done the work
Yeah.
yourself and you do help others with that, and you're gifted in that area. And this is one example of what to do about this. If you feel like have lost your power, you're not able to stand in it right now because you're knocked off your feet for whatever reason, and that happens to us. It just happens. But to get back up and stand in knowing who you are, this is one of the ways that you can do that, is work on that childhood trauma. Because I think what you're saying, Wendy, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that a big part of winning this battle of regaining your power and understanding who you are and being perfectly fine with that and centered in yourself is really the awareness of what you've been through,
Mm-hmm.
how it's affected you, and then you can see yourself more clearly. Am I on the right track with that?
Yeah, I think that sounds beautiful. Yes.
So the first step would be get aware, and doing some of that. What is that work called? The childhood trauma work? Is that your inner child work? Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's what it's frequently called, is your inner child work. And it's been talked about for decades. The name of the man is eluding me, but he was some sort of a mental health expert, I believe. Just John Bradford, maybe is what it is. Anyway, there's some YouTube videos of him talking about healing the inner child. And so it's something that is becoming more and more mainstream to talk about, and just sharing, yes, you go in and heal those pains. And it doesn't have to, healing your childhood trauma doesn't even have to necessarily be a trauma. And that's something that, and I've talked to people that they don't really understand. Like for myself, it's very black and white, very cut and dry. I had an extreme amount of childhood trauma. But there are people that they'll say, oh, I don't have any childhood trauma, but they have issues with their siblings, or they still have an issue with one of their parents. It's like, well, there's something that happened. And as silly as it sounds, when you're a child, if your older brother or sister takes your toy away from you and you're sitting here bawling because something was stolen from you, if you don't get that kind of reassurance or support from a caregiver or something, that is a trauma, or that can become embedded in your system as a trauma.
Yes. It doesn't take a huge, sexual abuse or anything. It
No.
can be anything
Yeah.
that causes trauma, and it literally changes your brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one of the things that I did hear recently, which I thought was fascinating, is And lots of times that will come from a parent, like something that they don't even realize, or when they do realize it. And, I know that I've said things to my children that I just regretted later, out of anger or whatever it was that I said. If you go back to that child and take responsibility for what you said and explain that it was wrong and how regretful you are and that you are sorry, that does start to begin to heal that trauma instantly.
It absolutely does. Absolutely. And, as a parent, of course, I did the best that I could to be the only, better mother than I ever had. And I know that I made mistakes. And I did when my kids were teenagers. That's when I really started waking up and doing my transformation. I went to both of my children, my son and my daughter, and I said, I apologize for, there were some things that I knew that I had done. I mean, I became aware of. I said, I'm so sorry for, my behavior and how this affected you. And I apologize for other things that I don't know that I did. And it's huge. And one of the things, since we're on this topic of apologies from a parent, sometimes you will never have the opportunity to get an actual apology from your parent because your parent isn't willing to apologize or the parent has moved on. And with the work that I do, there are ways to still get that apology that are so incredibly powerful. And I'm really glad that you brought that up about apologizing, because that's really powerful. As a parent, if you know that you've done something to your child, it is so empowering to go in and say, hey, I messed up. I am so sorry.
Yes, it's empowering to you and the child.
Yes.
And you're teaching the child a skill.
Right.
Teaching them something valuable that they can take with them.
Yeah.
Through their entire life,
Yeah.
up into adulthood and beyond. So
right.
Wonderful. So there's two ways to help you begin to stand more firmly in your power that we've talked about so far, and that is boundaries, setting healthy boundaries, and doing some of that inner child work. There are so many more ways to learn to stand in our power. It is a process, though. Like I said earlier, we are learning as we go where our boundaries need to be. We are learning who we were really born as, and to be our authentic, centered self, which is really the goal. The goal now is to really go back to that person you were born as and remember who you truly are, like
Yes.
Mufasa says.
Yes.
Remember who you are. But wow, is that a powerful statement?
Yes, it
Remember
is.
who you are,
Yes.
know who you are, and there are ways to understand yourself. There are ways. And I think journaling is one of the key ways to do that.
Oh, I love journaling. And speaking of journals, I happen to have a really beautiful journal right here in front of me.
Oh, I
Written
recognize that one.
Light Weavings by you.
Yes, and Tamara.
Yes, yes, it's a
Pam.
beautiful journal. Yeah, absolutely. It's empowering, it's healing, it's insightful.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
And all journaling is, I mean, all you got to do, and there's a thing called free writing. Even if you don't have a guided journal like the Light Weavings journal that Wendy just talked about, and we'll have a link to it below.
Yeah.
If you're watching this on YouTube. Free writing is a very powerful way of journaling as well. And that is exactly what it sounds like. Get a pen or a writing instrument. Maybe it's a typewriter. Maybe typewriter. Where did that come from? Maybe it's your laptop, your computer. Wow, that was a throwback.
That's great.
But I really like to physically use a pen and paper to write because there's something about it's more ingraining than typing. I feel like when you're actually using your own handwriting and writing it down and something that is tactile, and just write whatever your hand wants to write. Just start writing, even if it's gobbledygook. Just keep writing, and pretty soon, your higher self, that part of you, that consciousness that's within you, your inner being, the God in you, let's call it, will reveal either new insights of who you are, or what to do, or maybe something that you've been stuffing down
Yeah.
that's ready to come out.
Yeah. Yes. And this next year, 2023, there's going to be a lot more stuff ready to come out. Yeah. For everybody.
Yeah. So I know that we were talking earlier about this, but to stand firm in your power and release. That's what you talked about. You ready to release. What does that look like to release?
Oh, what does it look like? Oh, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? Ah, freedom,
Freedom. To release
joy.
what is no longer serving, right?
Yes.
And sometimes that is recognizing that a relationship isn't working, whether that be a friendship, a romantic relationship, a neighbor, whatever. That a relationship is no longer working. I can tell you that one of the most, I felt like I was standing in my power when I did this. It was just one small example, but a few years ago, I heard a podcast that I love, Maya Bialik podcast, and she was interviewing a celebrity, and I can't think of his name right now, um, who had decided to release his parents because they had bullied him his whole life, and to just be done and not have to deal with that anymore because it was brutal, the things that he'd been through. And to go ahead, and somebody else said, unfriend people on Facebook that you're not comfortable seeing your stuff. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow. And that means family as
Yes.
well,
Yes.
unfriending family members. And I did that. And that was scary for me before that to even think about that. But I can tell you when I did that, it was a release, Wendy, that you talk about, that release that was so healing for me, and realizing that I was in control of that. That is my decision. And I don't feel like the pendulum swung too far. I don't feel like it did damage. I feel like all it did was probably free them up as well as me.
Yeah. Well,
It's okay.
good job. Yeah, absolutely. Good job. I unfriended a family member years ago and had a little bit different experience. And it was because this person they were posting so much about political and religious stuff, it was flooding my wall. And I loved the person, didn't like the message.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to unfollow, the person. So I unfriended her. And unfortunately, this person for a number of years thought that I didn't like her. And so we just had a conversation, and I said, first I thanked her for being so forward and saying, telling me how she really felt. And I said, this has nothing to do with you as a human being. I love and adore you. It's just I cannot handle that. It was very negative, and I don't like any negative things in my social media. And so we had this great conversation, and everything was well. But yeah, social media, we don't have to be engaged with everybody, family or not. Yeah.
And it can be just a step. It seems a bit passive or underhanded, maybe, because that's so, if you unfriend somebody on Facebook, it's like, oh, a slap in the face. But it's a step towards releasing what is no longer serving you. And then as time goes on, maybe you do have that conversation. Then it becomes a conversation, the uncomfortable conversation that courage starts building in you once you do start setting those boundaries of knowing what's not good for you.
Right.
If it's not good for you, then make a decision, set a boundary. And then once that courage does build, then maybe the conversation does take place to where if that person is aggressive and abusive with their language, you can just walk away and know that you did your part in that.
Right.
And bless and release that person and not feel damaged from what they said, because words can be hurtful.
Oh, very.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of releasing happening right now, because as we level up, which is happening in this time and space, we have to let go of what is too heavy to drag with us. And
Yes.
thankfully, it doesn't want to come anyway.
Yeah. Yes. I love what you just said. And it reminds me of something that a friend told me, let go or be dragged.
Mm. Heavy
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Dragging something is heavy.
Yes,
Doesn't want to come.
it is.
It doesn't want to come with you. Let it
Right.
be. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff, Wendy. Thank you so much.
Oh, very good stuff. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. Love this topic.
Me too. I don't know, but I feel better. How do you feel?
I feel really good. I love this. Yeah, I was just going to throw in there just one more thought, just to share with everybody something that you and I do, talking about standing in our power, is before we get together, before we hit record, we take a moment and we call back our energy from conversations with other people, interactions with other people. And as you're calling back your energy, that helps you to stand in your power and fully present in the here and now. And we've talked before last time, I think it was, about being present, and how powerful is that to be present
Very.
with all of your energy called back. That's like a simple thing everybody can do.
Can we do that little exercise right now?
Sure, that'll be fun. Let me just get
Take off
another
my
sip of water.
Okay. Right, let's do that.
So anybody listening, they have to make sure you're not driving, you're somewhere safe, in a room, comfortable. You don't even have to have your feet on the floor unless you want to. Just be whatever is good for you. And just close your eyes and take some nice breaths in and out. Just notice how good it feels just to close your eyes and just to breathe. And with your eyes closed and just continuing to breathe, just use your child's imagination to call back your energy. Your energy may come to you as a feeling, it may come as a color. You may not feel anything at all. Whatever you experience is perfect. But just call back your energy from conversations with family. Call back your energy from anyone you met at a store. As you're driving, just call your energy back. Call it back from family, from pets. Wherever your energy may be, which is where your attention was, just call it back and just breathe. And as you're calling back your energy and remembering to breathe, just nice and easy, notice how much more grounded, solid, and secure and fully present you are in this moment. And just breathe. Let that all settle in. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and go on with your day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Just want to end with some. Before we end, though, I do want to give you kudos for all the work you've done, for all the work you've personally done, inner child work, so that you can take that and give to the world with the knowledge that you have from your own experience of your inner child work. Let's see, I have your book here somewhere, but I don't have it right in front of me, which I wish I did right now. Do you happen to have a copy right there?
Do. I'm
There
prepared.
it is.
I have both of our books.
Yes, tell us about your book, Wendy, please.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. Thank you for those kind words, for that acknowledgement, because it was a lot. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of effort. It was scary at times, but it was always liberating. And each time I went in and did some healing, it helped me to stand more fully in my power. And my book is Healing Your Soul in a Chaotic World, Defying the Odds of Sanity and Survival by Wendy Lee Baldwin. It's my story of nearly destroying myself with anxiety and depression and wanting to die and abusing myself. I hated myself. I thought I was God's biggest mistake. And my turning point, because I did a 180 with my life. And also in the back is a special section. It's a workbook. It's the secret formula to your best life ever. And that's for people who are ready to just jump in and get started on doing some of their own inner child work, and they're releasing and standing in their power. It's available on Amazon. So thank you for asking me about that.
It's beautifully written, talented, uniquely written. And I love the way you did that, where you, in first person, talked about yourself from being in the womb and what you experienced there. You did some real hard, intricate work to be able to get there in your mind. And we all have that ability.
Yes, we do. In fact, I actually have a 6-week course on that. It's Healings from the Womb, a New Beginning, where I take people one-on-one. So starting at conception, we lose so much of our power even back then. It's phenomenal. It's mind-boggling. And it's something that we can have a longer conversation about sometime. But it's really, really powerful. So thank you for asking me about that. Yes, and I just want to acknowledge you for all the work that you have done. And whenever we connect, if something comes up, you're so brave. And because we just go in and, bring some great shifting, and it's just beautiful. It takes a lot of courage. And it's my honor to be here with you and to witness what you're going through and your transformation. And
we all are beautiful beings. All of you are too. You all have a beautiful journey to discover and to really center yourself, because when you do that, you do become centered, knowing yourself better. And that is where you are the most powerful. And so standing in your power is the topic of the day. And then Wendy had brought up I co-authored Journal and Burn. It's a journal with my good friend Tamara Langford. So it is Light Weavings, Journal and Burn, Loving Wisdom for Release and Healing by Dawn and Tam, and it is on Amazon. It is basically a workbook it's a guided journal with information about what it's like to do a journal and burn exercise. And so there's words of wisdom in there, like this one by Paulo Coelho. Is that how you pronounce that? Coelho?
I don't know. Sounds good.
Tears are words that need to be written.
Yes.
Yes, tears are words that needs to be written. And that's really what this book is about. So you can find it on Amazon as well. Also, Tam and I, and you don't even know this yet, Wendy, but I'm sure you're going to be a part of it as well, are planning a retreat in Sedona, Arizona in the spring of 2023.
Oh, nice.
So there it is, where we will be doing this type of work, as well as many other healing types of workshops. So I will get you a date. So just stay tuned so you know it is coming. But I don't know if any of you out there in listening and YouTube land are familiar with Sedona, Arizona, but it is a healing place with a vortex, and it's beautiful as well. And we plan on doing it at a time of year that it is stunning. So stay tuned.
Wonderful. I can't wait to hear more about it. I have actually been to a healing retreat in Sedona. And so I know what you're talking about. And I can't wait to find out more information about that. Yeah. So cool.
Right. I talk about that next week. So once again, thank you all for listening to and being here on YouTube for Light Weavings podcast. Remember, what we talk about here is that question of what has dimmed your light, and are you ready to do something about it? Where we do talk about conversation, we do have conversations and talk about subjects that are probably a little more uncomfortable, but we get to the root of things here. And we not only bring it up, but we help you with ways to deal with it and brighten that light back up for you. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, well said. And you know what I really love about this, Dawn? I love spending time with you, conversing with you. We always have a topic and we just don't know where it's going to go.
We
We just don't know what's
always
going to
fun
come out
though.
because nothing is scripted beyond hello.
No, we're just having a conversation. So thank you all for listening in on our conversation today. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And Dawn, can you just share with us really quick here, like who do you like to serve? And share with that with us, and then have like a closing thought.
Thank you for asking me that question. The people that I normally serve are driven leaders who struggle with overwhelm because they have so much to do in their life and they have so much that they want to do in their life. And I walk with them down the journey to joy, I call it, really discovering who they truly are, what lights them up, and really weaving light into their life so that they can be more instead of just do more.
Yeah, love it. Beautiful.
Thank you.
So do you have any closing thoughts?
Remember who you are.
Mm.
Do remember who you are and stand in that realization of self. Your boundaries they will find you. They will tell you where to put them. And the right people then will be drawn to you. So don't be afraid to be who you really truly are. It's better there.
Love that. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything that you want to share with us?
Yes. I'll just share with you really quick that the people that I feel called to serve are those that feel like they're a mess inside and they don't know where to turn. They may not even understand what they're feeling. They just know that something is not right. Sometimes there can be like this inner little voice saying, "Hey, time to do something here." And I just want people to know that there is somewhere to turn. I've been through so much, come out the other side, and it is worth investing in yourself. My closing thoughts for today are: you were born to be powerful,
Yeah.
and it's time. And it's okay if you step into this in baby steps, or if you want to go leaps and bounds. It doesn't matter. It's whatever path is right for you. I just want to invite you to take the next step, whatever that is, whether it is setting a boundary, whether it is walking away from a relationship, or whether it's just simply sitting and calling back your energy, whatever that next step is for you. I just want to invite you to take that step and congratulate yourself, and then take the next step.
Beautiful.
Because you are surrounded by light, you are surrounded by love.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm really anxious for our next conversation.
Me too. We have no idea what we're going to talk about, so it'll be fun, fun to find out.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Talk to you all soon.